Commander Zephyr 9 adjusted his crystalline viewing apparatus as the blue-green world filled the observation deck's massive viewport. Earth hung before them like a precious gem, its swirling white clouds and vast oceans appearing deceptively peaceful. Behind him, the bridge crew of the Kethmoran dreadnought Inevitable Dawn worked silently at their stations, their elongated fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Initial scans complete. "Commander," reported Navigator Velthar, her voice carrying the melodic undertones typical of their species. "The planet shows optimal conditions for colonization. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, abundant water resources, and remarkably fertile continents." Zephyr 9's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The Kethmoran Empire had been searching for suitable worlds for 3 standard cycles, ever since their homeworld began showing signs of ecological collapse. This primitive system, tucked away in an unremarkable spiral arm, seemed perfect for their needs. "And the indigenous population?" he inquired, though he already knew the answer from the preliminary reports. "Primitive bipeds, Commander. They've barely achieved fusion technology and rudimentary spaceflight. No significant orbital defenses detected. Their civilization appears fragmented into numerous competing nation-states." Velthar paused, consulting her readings. Population approximately 8 billion, concentrated in urban centers. "They should pose no significant resistance to our colonization efforts." The commander's thorax vibrated with what passed for laughter among his kind. 8 billion primitives scattered across a single world, fighting among themselves instead of reaching for the stars. It was almost pitifully typical of species at this evolutionary stage. "Begin standard colonization protocol," Zephyr 9 ordered. "Deploy survey drones to major population centers. We'll observe their reaction patterns before proceeding with formal contact." Across Earth's major cities, the first signs appeared as brief atmospheric disturbances. Meteorologists worldwide scrambled to explain the anomalous readings their instruments detected. In New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other urban centers, strange objects began descending through the cloud layer. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the window of her MIT laboratory, watching as a metallic disk the size of a city block settled over Boston Harbor. The object's surface rippled like liquid mercury, occasionally revealing glimpses of incomprehensible geometric patterns beneath. "Are you getting this?" she called to her research partner, Dr. James Morrison, who was frantically adjusting their radio telescope array. "The electromagnetic signatures are off the charts," James replied, his voice tight with excitement and terror. "This isn't some natural phenomenon, Sarah. These things are artificial." Similar scenes played out across the globe. Military installations went to high alert as radar systems tracked dozens of objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Social media exploded with shaky smartphone videos of the mysterious craft hovering motionlessly above major cities. President Martinez stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by his most trusted advisors and military officials. The wall-mounted screens showed feeds from around the world, each displaying one of the alien vessels. "Options?" the president asked curtly. General Harrison, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, cleared his throat. "We've scrambled fighters to intercept, but so far these objects haven't responded to our presence. They're not broadcasting on any frequency we can detect, and they're maintaining position at approximately 5,000 feet above major population centers." "Are they hostile?" asked Secretary of State Williams. "Unknown, Madam Secretary, but their positioning suggests either a show of force or preparation for something bigger. No civilization travels between stars just to sightsee." High above Earth's atmosphere, the Kethmoran fleet maintained its positions. 50 dreadnoughts, each capable of reducing a continent to ash, waited in perfect formation. The survey drones had transmitted their data, and the results exceeded expectations. "The primitives have detected our scouts," reported Velthar. "Their military forces are mobilizing, but their weapons appear to be chemical-based projectiles and primitive directed energy systems. Nothing that could threaten even our lightest scouts." Commander Zephyr 9 reviewed the tactical data flowing across his command interface. The humans possessed nuclear weapons which commanded a degree of respect, but their delivery systems were laughably primitive. Intercontinental ballistic missiles that took 30 minutes to reach their targets, subsonic aircraft that would never penetrate Kethmoran shields, and naval vessels that moved slower than their ancestors' ceremonial barges. "Commence Phase 2, he ordered. Begin resource assessment and optimal settlement zone identification. Prepare the pacification protocols. The drones began their work in earnest, scanning Earth's crust for mineral deposits, mapping fresh water sources, and identifying the most fertile agricultural regions. To the Kethmoran, this was simply efficient preparation. To humanity, watching helplessly as alien craft methodically surveyed their world, it felt like being examined by a predator. Dr. Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. She and teams of scientists worldwide had been analyzing every scrap of data they could gather about the alien visitors. The pattern was becoming clear, and it terrified her. "They're not here for diplomacy," she told the emergency session of the UN Security Council via video link. "The flight patterns, the scanning frequencies, the systematic nature of their surveys, this is reconnaissance for colonization." The Chinese representative leaned forward. "You're certain of this assessment, Dr. Chen?" "As certain as I can be without direct communication. These aren't explorers or ambassadors. They're surveyors preparing the ground for occupation." In military installations around the world, the same grim realization was taking hold. Humanity was being measured for conquest, and initial assessments suggested they were found wanting. But the Kethmoran had made a critical error in their evaluation. They had observed human technology, human military capabilities, and human political divisions. What they had failed to grasp was the fundamental nature of human psychology when faced with an existential threat. As news of the scientific consensus spread through global communication networks, something unprecedented began to happen. Ancient enemies started talking. Rival nations shared intelligence. Military commanders who had spent their careers planning to fight each other began coordinating their responses. In the depths of NORAD, Russian and American officers worked side by side. In the South China Sea, where military tensions had simmered for decades, warships began forming joint task forces. Across Africa, Asia, and Europe, humanity began to do what it had never done before in its entire history: truly unite against a common enemy. The Kethmoran observed these developments with mild curiosity but little concern. Primitive species often displayed unusual behaviors when faced with superior civilizations. It changed nothing about the outcome. Commander Zephyr 9 prepared to transmit humanity's ultimatum. The message would be simple and direct. Surrender your world peacefully and your species would be preserved as a labor force. Resist and face extinction. What the commander could not know was that in choosing to threaten humanity's home, the Kethmoran had awakened something far more dangerous than any weapon in their arsenal. They had awakened human wrath. The transmission arrived simultaneously on every electronic device on Earth. Television broadcasts stopped mid-sentence, radio stations went silent, and billions of smartphones displayed the same message in perfect, unaccented English, and every other human language simultaneously. "People of Earth," the voice began, neither male nor female, but carrying an unmistakable tone of authority. "We are the Kethmoran Empire. Your world has been selected for colonization." President Martinez felt his blood turn to ice as he listened in the Situation Room. Around the world, 8 billion humans received the same message with the same growing horror. Your species demonstrates primitive technology and fragmented political structures. Resistance would be futile and costly to both our peoples. Therefore, we offer terms of peaceful surrender. Your population will be relocated to designated preservation zones, where your species will be maintained under our protection. Your cities and industrial centers will be repurposed for Kethmoran settlement. The message continued with cold, clinical precision. You have 72 hours to signal your acceptance of these terms. Failure to comply will necessitate military action to secure our colonization sites. This is not a negotiation. This is inevitable. The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Within minutes, that silence exploded into unprecedented global activity. Secure communication lines burned with traffic between world capitals. Military commanders who had never spoken to each other found themselves on the same conference calls. Scientists shared classified research without hesitation. The planet that had spent millennia divided against itself suddenly faced a choice between unity and extinction. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself in a position she never could have imagined, advising a room full of world leaders on humanity's response to an alien ultimatum. The hastily arranged video conference included presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists from every major nation on Earth. "The technology gap is immense," she reported grimly. "Our analysis of their survey drones suggests energy manipulation capabilities centuries beyond our current understanding. Their ships show no visible propulsion systems yet maintain perfect stability against our gravity. If it comes to a direct military confrontation, we lose," finished General Harrison bluntly. "Every war game we've run in the past 48 hours ends the same way. Total defeat within hours, possibly minutes." The Russian president leaned forward on his screen. "So we surrender? Accept slavery for our entire species?" "Never," President Martinez replied firmly. "But if conventional warfare is impossible, we need to think unconventionally." General Patel from India spoke up. "There is another option. Asymmetric warfare. We cannot match their technology, but perhaps we can use their underestimation of us as an advantage. Guerrilla tactics against a spacefaring civilization?" The British Prime Minister sounded skeptical. "Not guerrilla tactics," Dr. Chen interjected, her mind racing. "Guerrilla technology. They've assessed our military capabilities, but they're thinking in terms of nation-states fighting a conventional war. What if the war isn't conventional?" In the depths of the Pentagon, a new kind of war room was taking shape. Chinese hackers worked alongside American codebreakers. Russian nuclear engineers shared classified designs with French physicists. Japanese robotics experts collaborated with German chemists. The normal barriers of national security had evaporated overnight. Colonel Maria Santos, newly appointed commander of the Global Defense Initiative, addressed the assembled team. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 60 hours to accomplish something unprecedented. We need to upgrade our entire species' technological capability to fight an interstellar empire." Dr. Kim Nakamura from Tokyo looked up from his holographic displays. "The electromagnetic signatures from their drone suggest they're using crystalline matrices for data storage and processing. If we can create a feedback loop in their communication systems—" "A virus," breathed Dr. Chen. "Not a computer virus, but something that exploits their quantum crystalline technology." The room buzzed with sudden energy. It was insane, impossible, and humanity's only hope. High above Earth, Commander Zephyr 9 observed the frantic activity below with detached interest. The primitives were displaying typical pre-surrender behavior: frenzied communication, military mobilization, and what appeared to be some form of species-wide cooperation. "Curious," noted Navigator Velthar. "Their neural patterns suggest elevated stress levels, but not the despair we typically observe at this stage of colonization." "Irrelevant," the commander replied. "Despair or hope, the outcome remains unchanged. Continue monitoring their military installations. If they attempt anything foolish, we'll need to demonstrate our capabilities." What the Kethmoran could not detect was the nature of humanity's response. Deep underground, in laboratories and military bunkers, humans were doing something their alien observers thought impossible. They were innovating under pressure at a rate that defied their previous technological advancement curves. Dr. Chen hadn't left her laboratory in 36 hours. Around her, the world's brightest minds worked with desperate intensity. They had reverse-engineered aspects of Kethmoran technology from their sensor sweeps, created quantum processing systems from theoretical physics papers, and begun manufacturing weapons that shouldn't have been possible with Earth's industrial capacity. "The crystalline virus is ready for testing," announced Dr. Petrov from Moscow via hologram. "If our analysis is correct, it should cause cascade failures in their quantum matrices." "And if we're wrong?" asked Colonel Santos. "Then we've wasted precious time and resources," Dr. Chen replied grimly. "But if we're right, we might be able to level the technological playing field." The test came sooner than expected. A Kethmoran scout descended toward the Sahara Desert, apparently investigating some unusual energy readings from a newly constructed human facility. What it found was humanity's first quantum crystalline weapons array, hastily assembled from theories that had been pure speculation 72 hours earlier. The beam that struck the alien craft was unlike anything in humanity's previous arsenal. Instead of heat or kinetic force, it delivered a carefully crafted quantum virus directly into the scout's processing core. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien vessel began to convulse, its perfect geometric form rippling and distorting. The scout crashed into the desert sand, its crystalline systems overloaded and confused by patterns their designers never anticipated. Humanity had drawn first blood. Aboard the inevitable dawn, alarms rang for the first time in the ship's 3-century service history. Commander Zephyr 9 stared at the diagnostic readings in disbelief. "The scout's quantum matrix has been compromised," reported Velthar, her melodic voice tight with confusion. "The viral pattern appears to be some form of crystalline infection, but the sophistication level suggests technology centuries beyond their apparent capabilities." "Impossible," the commander hissed. "Run full diagnostics on their technological assessments." As the analysis completed, a disturbing picture emerged. The humans hadn't simply built new weapons. They had somehow leaped forward centuries in technological development in less than 3 days. More troubling, they seemed to have specifically targeted Kethmoran weaknesses that should have been unknown to them. "Commander," Velthar's voice carried a note of something the Kethmoran rarely experienced: uncertainty. "Permission to recommend advancing the colonization timeline." Zephyr 9's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the implications. The primitives had somehow become significantly less primitive in an impossibly short time. Worse, they had demonstrated the ability to damage Kethmoran technology. Granted, he decided. "Signal the fleet. Begin Phase 3 immediately. Full military deployment." As the order went out across the Kethmoran armada, 50 dreadnoughts began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere. The aliens had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to continue developing. They had no idea how dangerous humanity could become when truly threatened. The skies above Earth turned dark as 50 Kethmoran dreadnoughts descended through the atmosphere. Each vessel was a masterpiece of alien engineering, their crystalline hulls refracting light in patterns that hurt human eyes to observe directly. The smallest was the size of Manhattan, the largest dwarfed entire mountain ranges. Commander Zephyr 9 stood on the bridge of the inevitable dawn, watching as his fleet took up positions above Earth's major population centers. The primitive world spread beneath them, its cities glittering like scattered jewels against the continental landmasses. "Target selection complete, Commander," reported Weapons Master Kethval. "Initial demonstration strikes calculated to minimize infrastructure damage while maximizing psychological impact." The commander's thorax vibrated with satisfaction. One precisely placed energy discharge above each major city would demonstrate Kethmoran power while preserving the valuable urban centers for later colonization. The humans would witness the obliteration of their military installations and understand the futility of resistance. "Commence demonstration protocol," Zephyr 9 ordered. "Let them see what defiance brings." High-energy beams lanced downward from the alien vessels, targeting military bases, naval installations, and missile silos. The destructive power was incomprehensible. Entire military complexes simply ceased to exist, leaving behind perfectly circular craters of fused glass. In the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center, General Harrison watched in horror as America's most advanced military installations vanished in seconds. Similar reports flooded in from around the world. Russia's strategic rocket forces, China's naval bases, Britain's air command centers, all gone in minutes of precisely coordinated strikes. "Casualty reports?" President Martinez asked grimly. "Surprisingly minimal," replied an aide. "They're targeting military infrastructure, not population centers. It's like they want to preserve us." "Of course they do," Dr. Chen said bitterly from her position at the scientific advisory station. "We're the livestock. They're just removing our ability to fight back before rounding us up." But humanity's response was already in motion. Deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, in a facility that hadn't existed a week earlier, Colonel Santos activated a communication system that spanned the globe. "All stations, this is Global Command. Operation Last Stand is now active. I repeat, Last Stand is active." Across Earth, hidden installations came online. The past 72 hours had seen the most massive construction project in human history. Using technologies reverse-engineered from Kethmoran scanner emissions and theoretical physics, pushed beyond all previous boundaries, humanity had built a planetary defense network. Dr. Chen's viral weapon had been only the beginning. Working with resources pooled from every nation on Earth, human engineers had accomplished miracles. Quantum crystalline arrays emerged from underground silos. Gravity manipulation devices that shouldn't have been possible powered up in concealed mountain bases. energy systems based on principles humanity had only theorized about. 3 days earlier began channeling power on scales that dwarfed their conventional capabilities. The first surprise came from the Australian outback, where a facility disguised as mining equipment suddenly erupted with energy. A beam of coherent quantum force struck the Catamaran dreadnought hovering over Sydney, not with explosive power but with something far more insidious. A crystalline virus engineered to spread through the alien fleet's interconnected systems. Aboard the dreadnought's severing light, Captain Morthex felt his ship shudder as unknown patterns infiltrated their quantum networks. Warning displays flickered as systems began reporting impossible conflicts in their basic operational matrices. "Captain, we're experiencing cascade failures in quantum processing," reported his navigator. "The pattern appears to be spreading through our fleet communication grid." Similar reports flooded in from across the Catamaran armada. The viral infection was jumping from ship to ship, carried by their own communication systems. What should have been impossible was happening. Their quantum crystalline technology was being turned against them. Commander Zephyr 9 watched his tactical displays with growing alarm as ship after ship reported system malfunctions. The humans had somehow created a weapon specifically designed to exploit Catamaran technology, and it was spreading faster than they could isolate it. "Cut all communication links," he ordered desperately. "Quarantine protocols immediately." But it was too late. The viral cascade had already infected 47 of his 50 vessels. Worse, the humans weren't finished. From hidden installations across Earth, humanity unleashed technologies that defied their previous capabilities. Gravitational lensing arrays focused stellar radiation into weapons of unimaginable power. Quantum tunneling devices allowed instantaneous strikes that bypassed Catamaran shields. Most terrifying of all, the humans demonstrated technologies that shouldn't have existed in their galaxy for another 1,000 years. Dr. Nakamura activated the gravity well generator hidden beneath Mount Fuji. The device, built using principles extracted from Catamaran gravitational signatures, created a localized distortion in spacetime itself. The alien dreadnought hovering over Tokyo suddenly found itself caught in an artificial gravity field that began dragging it inexorably toward Earth's surface. Similar surprises erupted across the globe. In the Himalayas, a quantum cascade generator created an energy field that simply unmade matter at the atomic level, consuming a Catamaran vessel in a sphere of absolute nothingness. Beneath the Sahara, human engineers activated a space-time distortion weapon that trapped 3 alien ships in a temporal loop, causing them to experience the same moment repeatedly until their crews went insane. "How is this possible?" Navigator Velthar demanded, her melodic voice cracking with stress. 3 days ago, they were using chemical rockets. Now they're deploying technology that rivals our own. Commander Zephyr 9 had no answer. The humans had somehow accomplished in 72 hours what should have taken centuries of development. More disturbing, they seemed to understand Catamaran technology better than the Catamaran themselves. The truth was both simpler and more terrifying than the aliens could comprehend. Humanity had done something no other species in galactic history had managed. They had evolved their technology through pure desperation and collaborative innovation. Faced with extinction, humans had shared every secret, pooled every resource, and pushed their understanding of physics beyond all previous limits. Dr. Chen coordinated the global assault from her command center, her screen showing the status of dozens of impossible weapons deployed across Earth. Each installation represented years of theoretical research compressed into hours of frantic construction. The HFY crystalline virus has infected 80% of their fleet, she reported. Gravitational weapons are holding 12 of their vessels in capture fields. Quantum disruptors have eliminated 9 more. Colonel Santos monitored the tactical situation with grim satisfaction. "Enemy casualty assessment?" 37 vessels destroyed or disabled, came the reply. 13 remaining operational, but their command and control systems are compromised. President Martinez watched the impossible battle unfold on his screens. 3 days ago, humanity had been helpless against the alien threat. Now they were winning a war against an interstellar empire. "How many human casualties?" he asked quietly. "Minimal," Dr. Chen replied. "The aliens chose to demonstrate their power instead of maximizing damage. That restraint may have cost them everything." Aboard the Inevitable Dawn, Commander Zephyr 9 faced a reality that challenged everything he knew about galactic warfare. His supposedly invincible fleet was being systematically destroyed by a species that had been rated as primitive just days earlier. "Signal retreat to all remaining vessels," he ordered, his mandibles clicking with what passed for desperation among his kind. "Emergency fold space jump to rally point Zeta. Commander, the quantum viruses have compromised our fold space engines," Velthar reported. "We cannot achieve faster than light travel while infected." The trap was complete. The humans had not only matched Kethmoran technology, they had surpassed it in key areas. More importantly, they had done so while specifically targeting every weakness in alien systems. As the last functional Kethmoran vessels struggled to maintain position above a world that had become far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Humanity prepared for the final phase of their impossible defense. The species that had been marked for slavery was about to teach the galaxy why threatening human survival was the worst mistake any civilization could make. The 13 surviving Kethmoran dreadnoughts hung motionless above Earth, their once perfect formations now scattered and desperate. Commander Zephyr 9 watched his tactical displays with the growing realization that his empire's first defeat in 3 millennia was unfolding beneath him. "Status report," he demanded, though he dreaded the answer. Navigator Velthar's voice had lost all its melodic quality, replaced by something resembling fear. "Quantum cascade viruses have infected all major ship systems. Fold space engines are completely compromised. Communication with the Empire is impossible through conventional channels. And our weapons? 40% operational, but targeting systems are unreliable due to viral interference. The humans appear to have created an infection that learns and adapts faster than we can counter it." The commander's mandibles clicked in what his species considered profound anxiety. The humans had not simply matched Kethmoran technology. They had specifically engineered weapons to exploit every vulnerability in alien systems. It suggested an understanding of Kethmoran science that should have been impossible for a species that had only discovered their existence days earlier. On the surface of Earth, humanity was experiencing its own form of shocked disbelief. In command centers around the globe, military officers and scientists stared at tactical displays showing the impossible, a spacefaring Empire's fleet crippled by technologies that had existed only in theoretical physics papers less than a week earlier. Dr. Sarah Chen rubbed her exhausted eyes as she reviewed the latest battle assessment. 13 alien vessels remain operational, but our quantum viruses are spreading through their systems faster than they can isolate them. At current infection rates, they'll lose all major systems within 12 hours. Colonel Santos studied the orbital positions of the surviving ships. They're trying to establish a defensive perimeter. Classic military doctrine when facing superior forces. Superior forces, President Martinez repeated wonderingly. 3 days ago, we were about to be enslaved by these beings. Now they're calling us superior? Dr. Chen nodded grimly. Fear is a powerful motivator. When humanity realized that surrender meant extinction of our civilization, we did something unprecedented. We genuinely cooperated. No national boundaries, no trade secrets, no military classifications. Pure collaborative innovation under existential pressure. The scope of human achievement was staggering even to those who had lived through it. In 72 hours, every major nation had shared its most classified research. Scientists had collaborated across time zones without sleep. Engineers had built facilities using technologies that existed only as theoretical concepts. Manufacturing capabilities had been retooled to produce weapons that required materials and precision that shouldn't have been possible with Earth's industrial capacity. Most remarkably, humans had reverse-engineered principles of Kethmoran technology from nothing more than sensor signatures and gravitational distortions, then improved upon them. The viral weapons weren't copies of alien systems. They were evolutionary leaps beyond what the Kethmoran had achieved. Dr. Kim Nakamura activated his communication link from the hidden facility beneath Mount Fuji. Global Command, this is Pacific Station. We're detecting energy buildups in the remaining alien vessels. It appears they're preparing for a final assault. The transmission crackled with interference from the ongoing quantum battles raging through alien systems, but the message was clear enough. The Kethmoran were preparing to abandon all restraint and attempt to destroy Earth's population centers, rather. than risk further technological contamination. Commander Zephyr 9 had reached the same conclusion. If the Kethmoran Empire could not claim this world, it could not be allowed to exist as a threat to galactic stability. A species that could evolve this rapidly represented an existential danger to every established civilization. Prepare orbital bombardment protocols, he ordered. Full planetary sterilization. We cannot allow these humans to spread their technological corruption beyond this system. The remaining functional weapon systems on 13 dreadnoughts began charging for a coordinated strike that would crack Earth's crust and boil away its oceans. If the Kethmoran could not have this world, no one would. But humanity had prepared for this possibility as well. Deep beneath the Colorado Rockies, in a facility that had been carved from solid granite in less than 48 hours, Dr. Elena Vasquez activated Earth's final defense. The global defense grid had been humanity's most ambitious project, a network of quantum crystalline installations that didn't just defend Earth, but transformed the entire planet into a single massive weapon. All stations, prepare for grid activation, she announced across the global communication network. Planetary Defense Protocol Omega is now active. Across Earth's surface, hidden installations emerged from camouflaged positions. The human species had turned their entire world into a fortress, with quantum weapons arrays emerging from every continent. But these weren't simply defensive positions. They were components of a single integrated system that treated Earth itself as a weapon platform. The first sign of the grid's activation was a low harmonic resonance that seemed to come from the planet's core. Animals worldwide fell silent as something fundamental shifted in Earth's electromagnetic field. The aurora borealis suddenly appeared in broad daylight over every major city, dancing in colors that had never existed in nature. Aboard the inevitable dawn, sensor readings began displaying impossible data. The entire planet below them was generating a unified energy field that defied every known law of physics. Worse, the field was coherent and directed, focused directly at the remaining Kethmoran vessels. Impossible readings, Commander, Velthar reported, her voice now openly terrified. The planet itself appears to be generating weapons-grade quantum cascades. The energy signatures suggest they've turned their entire world into a single massive crystalline array. Commander Zephyr 9 stared at the data in horrified fascination. The humans hadn't just built weapons to fight the Kethmoran. They had restructured their entire planet's electromagnetic field into a coherent defense grid. The technological achievement was centuries beyond what any single world should have been capable of accomplishing. The grid fired. What struck the Kethmoran vessels wasn't energy or matter, but something far more fundamental: a coordinated assault on the quantum foundations of reality itself. The weapons didn't destroy the alien ships so much as convince the universe that they had never existed in the first place. 7 dreadnoughts simply vanished, erased from existence by quantum fields that rewrote local spacetime. 3 more found themselves trapped in recursive temporal loops that aged their crews to death in seconds, while keeping their ships frozen in time. The remaining 3 experienced something worse. They were transported to a parallel dimension where the laws of physics operated according to human mathematical models rather than galactic standard reality. In less than 30 seconds, the most powerful warfleet in Kethmoran history had been eliminated by weapons that treated physics as a suggestion rather than a law. Commander Zephyr 9 found himself alone on the bridge of the inevitable dawn, the last surviving vessel of his armada. His crew had been evacuated to the few remaining functional areas of the ship as the quantum viruses continued their inexorable spread through alien systems. Commander, came Velthar's weak transmission from the isolated emergency bridge. Long-range sensors detect additional human energy signatures building across their planet. They appear to be preparing another grid activation. The implication was clear. Humanity could destroy him whenever they chose. They were keeping him alive for a reason, and Zephyr 9 suspected he knew what that reason was. The communication request arrived on frequencies that the Kethmoran had thought were impossible for primitive species to access. When he accepted the transmission, the voice that emerged spoke in perfect Kethmoran, complete with proper grammatical structures and cultural inflections. Commander Zephyr 9 of the Inevitable Dawn, this is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth, we need to talk. Commander Zephyr 9 stared at the communication interface in disbelief. The human was speaking perfect Kethmoran, not through translation software, but with the nuanced understanding of someone who had studied their language and culture for years. This should have been impossible. First contact had occurred only days earlier. Dr. Sarah Chen, he replied carefully, his mandibles clicking with uncertainty. Your linguistic capabilities are unexpected. We're a species that learns quickly when motivated, came her response, especially when our survival depends on understanding our enemies. Your communication protocols weren't as secure as you thought. The commander felt his thorax constrict with something approaching panic. If the humans had accessed Kethmoran communication networks, they would have learned far more than language. They would have accessed tactical data, fleet positions, possibly even the location of Kethmoran worlds. What do you want, human? He asked, though he suspected the answer would be worse than he imagined. To make you an offer, Dr. Chen replied. You have one ship left. Your crew is dying from quantum virus infection. Your empire has no idea what happened to your fleet, because we've blocked all your long-range communications. You can die here in isolation, or you can help us prevent a war that will destroy both our civilizations. The offer was so unexpected that Zephyr 9 nearly severed the communication link. Explain. On Earth's surface, Dr. Chen stood in the Global Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the orbital position of the last Kethmoran vessel. Around her, representatives from every nation on Earth watched as humanity's first diplomatic contact with an alien species unfolded. Your empire sent 50 dreadnoughts to subjugate a primitive world, she began. Only one ship remains, and its crew is infected with quantum viruses that your medical technology cannot counter. When your empire investigates this system, they'll find evidence of technology that shouldn't exist. They'll either assume you encountered another galactic power, or they'll realize that humanity has evolved beyond their initial assessment. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Either conclusion will result in them sending a much larger fleet to eliminate the threat. Our analysis suggests they'll dispatch at least 500 vessels, possibly more. Commander Zephyr 9's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the strategic situation. The human was correct. The Empire would never accept that a single world had defeated a full colonization fleet. They would respond with overwhelming force to ensure that whatever had destroyed the fleet could never threaten Kethmoran interests again. And you believe you can defeat 500 dreadnoughts as easily as you defeated 50? He asked, though something in the human's tone suggested she had a different plan entirely. No, Dr. Chen admitted. 500 ships would require us to upgrade our planetary defenses significantly. We could probably manage it, but the cost would be enormous. More importantly, your empire would then send 5,000 ships, then 50,000. Eventually, you'd overwhelm us through sheer numbers. The commander felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The human was describing an escalating war that would consume both civilizations. Then what do you propose? A different approach entirely. You help us stage a false flag operation. We make it appear that your fleet was destroyed by a rival galactic power, one powerful enough that the Kethmoran Empire would hesitate to provoke. In exchange, we cure your crew of the quantum virus and provide you with enough technological upgrades to explain your survival. Zephyr 9 was silent for long moments, considering the audacious proposal. You would allow me to return to the Empire with samples of your technology? Carefully selected samples, Dr. Chen clarified. Enough to prove that you encountered advanced aliens, but not enough to reveal the full scope of human capabilities. Your empire gets a plausible explanation for the fleet's loss, and we get time to prepare for eventual contact under better circumstances. The plan was insane, but the commander could see its logic. The alternative was a war of escalation that would eventually destroy one or both civilizations. Still, he had to ask the obvious question. What guarantee do I have that you won't simply destroy me once I've served your purpose? Dr. Chen's reply carried a tone that somehow conveyed both reassurance and warning. Commander, if we wanted you dead, you would have died with the rest of your fleet. We kept you alive because we need a survivor to tell the right story. But more than that, we want your empire to understand something important about humanity, which is, we're not conquerors. We're protectors. We don't want to spread across the galaxy enslaving other species. We just want to be left alone to develop in peace. Help us arrange that, and you'll find humans can be the most valuable allies you've ever encountered. To prove her point, Dr. Chen transmitted a data package that made the commander's sensors scream with impossible readings. The file contained theoretical frameworks for technologies that went far beyond what humanity had demonstrated in battle. Faster-than-light communications that didn't require quantum crystalline matrices, energy generation systems that could power entire star systems, medical technologies that could extend lifespans indefinitely. These are theoretical models only, Dr. Chen explained, but they represent directions our research is taking. Share these with your empire's scientists and they'll understand that humanity's technological development isn't slowing down. It's accelerating. We're not a threat to be eliminated, but a resource to be cultivated. Commander Zephyr 9 studied the data with growing amazement. Each theoretical framework represented centuries of potential advancement. If the humans could actually develop these technologies, they would quickly surpass the Kethmoran Empire in every meaningful way. You would share this knowledge with us? He asked. Eventually through proper diplomatic channels. But first, we need your empire to approach us as equals rather than seeing us as primitives to be conquered. The offer was more generous than anything the commander had expected. The humans weren't just offering to spare his life. They were proposing a partnership that could benefit both civilizations. Still, he had to understand the true scope of what they were asking. This false flag operation you propose, it would require me to deceive my own empire. You would be saving your empire from a war they cannot win, Dr. Chen replied firmly. Our analysis of Kethmoran technology suggests your civilization reached its current level through conquest and assimilation of other species' knowledge. You've been technologically stagnant for centuries because you've never faced an existential threat that forced rapid innovation. She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a note of certainty that chilled the commander to his core. We've advanced more in the past week than your empire has in the past 1,000 years. And we're just getting started. The implications were staggering. If the humans continued developing at their current rate, they would surpass galactic civilization within decades. The Kethmoran Empire could either position itself as humanity's ally during this transition, or find itself obsolete within a generation. What specific deception do you propose? Zephyr 9 asked, his decision made. Dr. Chen's response came with detailed holographic projections showing manufactured evidence of a fictitious galactic power. We call them the Void-Touched, a civilization that manipulates dark matter and operates from between dimensions. We've prepared wreckage that will suggest your fleet encountered advanced weapons based on technologies your empire doesn't understand. The fabricated evidence was incredibly sophisticated, debris patterns that suggested exotic weapon impacts, energy signatures that pointed to impossible technologies, even what appeared to be quantum shadows of the attacking vessels. Any Kethmoran investigation would conclude that the fleet had encountered something far beyond current galactic civilization. Your survival story is simple, Dr. Chen continued. You were investigating primitive radio signals from this system when you encountered the Void-Touched. They destroyed your fleet but spared your ship to deliver a warning. This sector of space is under their protection. Any further Kethmoran incursions will result in retaliation against Empire worlds. It was perfect. The story would explain the fleet's destruction while providing a compelling reason for the Empire to avoid the Sol system. More importantly, it would position humanity as valuable intelligence assets rather than threats to be eliminated. The quantum virus cure? The commander asked. Already prepared. We'll also provide your ship with upgrades that will appear to be battlefield modifications. Improvements your crew made while fighting the Void-Touched. Nothing that reveals our true capabilities, but enough to suggest you encountered very advanced technology. Commander Zephyr 9 made his decision. I accept your proposal, Dr. Chen, but I require one additional assurance. Name it. When your species eventually makes formal contact with the Empire, I want to be involved in the negotiations. I've seen what humans can accomplish when threatened. I'd like to see what you can accomplish as allies. Dr. Chen's response carried what sounded remarkably like human humor. Commander, I think that can be arranged. Welcome to the beginning of a very interesting partnership. 6 months later, Commander Zephyr 9 stood before the High Council of the Kethmoran Empire, his crystalline insignia gleaming under the ceremonial lighting of the Grand Assembly Chamber. The most powerful beings in known space sat in concentric circles around him, their alien forms representing dozens of conquered species that had been absorbed into the Empire over millennia. Commander, spoke High Counselor Vexthera, her ancient voice carrying the authority of 3,000 years of galactic dominance. Your report describes encounters with technology beyond our current understanding. The Council requires clarification. Zephyr 9 activated his holographic display, showing the fabricated evidence that human scientists had crafted with meticulous care. Wreckage patterns that suggested impossible weapons, energy signatures that defied known physics, and most compelling of all, quantum shadows that appeared to show massive vessels flickering in and out of dimensional space. The entities we encountered called themselves the Void Touched, he reported, his mandibles clicking with perfectly rehearsed anxiety. They appeared to manipulate dark matter itself as a weapon. Our sensors detected massive energy signatures originating from what can only be described as parallel dimensional space. The High Council murmured among themselves in languages from across the galaxy. The evidence was compelling, because human scientists had designed it to be unverifiable. The supposed void touched technology operated on principles that the Kethmoran Empire couldn't reproduce or fully understand. And the primitive world you were investigating? Asked Counselor Morthek, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic evidence with mechanical precision. The Void Touched claimed it as their territory, Zephyr 9 replied. They indicated that the primitive species there, the humans, were under their protection. Any further incursions into that sector would result in retaliation against Empire worlds. High Counselor Vexithera leaned forward, her interest clearly piqued. These humans, what did you observe about them during your brief encounter? This was the crucial moment. Zephyr 9 had rehearsed this response countless times, balancing truth with misdirection. Primitive radio-using species, approximately early fusion age development. However, the Void Touched appeared to be interested in them. Our brief scan suggested the humans possess unusual neural flexibility and rapid adaptation capabilities. Interesting, mused Counselor Kethvar, whose species had been absorbed into the Empire 5 centuries earlier. Perhaps these Void Touched see potential in the humans as we once did in various primitive species. The conversation was proceeding exactly as Dr. Chen had predicted. The High Council was reaching the conclusion that humanity represented a valuable resource that was unfortunately under the protection of a superior power. Commander, Vexithera continued, your ship's sensor logs indicate significant technological upgrades acquired during this encounter. Our scientists are particularly interested in the quantum resonance modifications to your crystalline matrices. Zephyr 9 felt a moment of pride in human ingenuity. The upgrades Dr. Chen's team had provided were real but limited, improvements that appeared to be battlefield modifications. Without revealing the full scope of human technological capabilities, the modifications were necessary for survival, he explained. Exposure to void-touched energy fields required adaptive shielding. My engineering crew developed these improvements while under extreme duress. What he didn't mention was that human scientists had designed every modification to serve dual purposes. The upgrades genuinely improved Kethmoran technology, but they also contained subtle quantum signatures that would allow Earth to track any ship using them. More importantly, they included theoretical frameworks that would gradually lead Kethmoran scientists toward specific technological developments that would make future human Kethmoran cooperation more feasible. The Council will review your recommendations regarding the Sol sector, Vexthera announced. Your suggestion that we avoid that region until we better understand the Void Touch threat seems prudent. In the months following the deception, the Sol system became effectively quarantined by Kethmoran directive. No Empire vessels were permitted within 50 light-years of Earth without explicit High Council authorization. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented, protection from galactic civilization, while they continued their rapid technological development. But the humans hadn't spent those months idle. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been her MIT laboratory, now transformed into the command center for humanity's most ambitious project. Around her, holographic displays showed the progress of construction sites scattered across the solar system, asteroid mining operations, orbital manufacturing platforms, and research stations that pushed the boundaries of human engineering. Status report, Dr. Nakamura, she requested. The Mars terraforming project is ahead of schedule, came his response from the red planet's surface. Using Kethmoran atmospheric processing techniques, we should have breathable air in select domes within 18 months. The Jupiter orbital platforms are extracting fusion materials faster than we can process them, and the asteroid belt mining operations have provided enough rare elements to expand our quantum crystalline manufacturing by 300%. President Martinez, now serving as Earth's first planetary coordinator, reviewed the industrial reports with amazement. In 6 months, we've expanded human civilization more than in our entire previous history. Necessity is still driving innovation, Dr. Chen replied. We know the Kethmoran Empire will eventually investigate the Sol system more thoroughly. When they do, we need to be ready to reveal ourselves as equals rather than primitives. The quantum virus technology had evolved far beyond its original destructive purpose. Human scientists had learned to use similar principles for beneficial applications: medical treatments that could repair genetic damage, manufacturing processes that assembled materials at the atomic level, and most importantly, faster-than-light communication systems that operated independently of any known galactic networks. Colonel Santos, now General Santos and commander of the Solar Defense Force, activated a secure communication link. Dr. Chen, we're receiving a transmission on the quantum channels. It's Commander Zephyr 9. The Kethmoran officer's hologram appeared in the command center, his crystalline form shimmering with the effects of long-distance quantum communication. Over the past months, he had become humanity's secret ally within the Empire, providing intelligence about galactic politics while helping to maintain the void-touch deception. Dr. Chen, he greeted in perfect English, another skill that had impressed the High Council when he claimed to have learned it from void-touched data caches. I have significant news to report. Go ahead, Commander. The High Council has approved a new directive. They want to begin covert observation of human development to better understand why the void-touched consider your species valuable. A small research fleet will arrive in your system within 6 months. Dr. Chen felt her pulse quicken. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Humanity's second first contact, but this time as the equals they had made themselves become. How many ships? She asked. 3 science vessels, minimal armament. The Empire believes they're conducting secret observations of a primitive species. They have no idea that you'll be ready for them. General Santos smiled grimly. Oh, we'll be ready. The question is whether they'll be ready for what humanity has become. Commander Zephyr 9's mandibles clicked with what had become his version of human laughter. Based on my experience, General, I suspect the surprise will be entirely theirs. As the transmission ended, Dr. Chen turned to address the global leaders assembled in the command center. Representatives from every nation on Earth, along with the new colonial governors of Mars and the asteroid belt stations, waited for her assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, humanity is about to take its place on the galactic stage. In 6 months, we'll reveal to the Kethmoran Empire exactly what humans can accomplish when we work together. I suspect they're going to be very impressed. What none of them could anticipate was that humanity's technological development was about to accelerate even further. The approaching research fleet would discover that the species they thought they were secretly observing had already detected their arrival, analyzed their technology, and prepared innovations that would once again revolutionize galactic civilization. The humans were ready to show the galaxy what they had learned about the power of cooperation, innovation, and the unstoppable force of human determination. The 3 Kethmoran research vessels dropped out of fold space at the edge of the Sol system, their advanced stealth systems engaged to avoid detection by the primitive humans they believed they were secretly observing. Science Commander Velkara reviewed her mission parameters one final time. Conduct covert surveillance of human development to understand their potential value to galactic civilization. Stealth fields at maximum efficiency, reported her navigator. We should be completely invisible to primitive sensor systems. What the Kethmoran expedition didn't know was that humanity had been tracking their approach for 3 weeks. Advanced quantum sensors, hidden throughout the outer solar system, had detected the fold space signatures long before the alien ships arrived. Earth's response had been swift and comprehensive. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Olympus Station. Humanity's newest achievement, a massive orbital platform positioned at the L4 Lagrange point between Earth and Luna. Around her, holographic displays showed the precise positions of the three Kethmoran vessels. As they began their supposedly secret approach toward the inner solar system, all stations report ready, announced General Santos from his position at the Tactical Coordination Console. Operation Renaissance is go. President Martinez, now serving his second term as planetary coordinator, watched the displays with barely contained excitement. 6 months of preparation for this moment. Let's show them what humanity has accomplished. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of hiding human advancement, they would reveal it gradually, allowing the Kethmoran observers to discover each new capability in a sequence designed to maximize impact. The aliens would think they were conducting secret surveillance while actually experiencing a carefully choreographed demonstration of human technological evolution. Science Commander. Velkara focused her vessel's sensors on Earth, expecting to observe a primitive world with basic industrial development. What her instruments detected instead made her question the accuracy of her equipment. Navigator, run full diagnostics on the sensor array, she ordered. I'm detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist on a primitive world. Diagnostics complete, Commander. All systems operating within normal parameters. Velkara studied the readings with growing confusion. Earth's electromagnetic spectrum was alive with communications traffic using quantum encryption methods that rivaled Kethmoran technology. More disturbing, her sensors detected massive orbital installations that hadn't existed in Commander Zephyr 9's original survey data. Helm, bring us closer to the third planet. Maintain stealth protocols. As the research fleet approached Earth, the true scope of human achievement became apparent. The planet was surrounded by a network of orbital installations that defied every assumption about primitive civilizations. Manufacturing platforms the size of cities processed materials using techniques that appeared to manipulate matter at the atomic level. Energy collectors gathered power from solar radiation with efficiency ratings that exceeded Kethmoran capabilities. Most shocking of all were the defensive installations. Earth bristled with weapons arrays that registered as quantum crystalline technology, the same advanced systems that only the most sophisticated galactic civilizations possessed. Commander, her science officer, reported with obvious distress. Long-range sensors are detecting industrial operations throughout this entire star system. The species has colonized multiple worlds and established permanent installations in the asteroid belt. Velkara felt her thorax constrict with something approaching panic. The humans had somehow accomplished in months what most species required centuries to achieve. This wasn't primitive development. This was technological evolution at an unprecedented rate. Could this be void-touched intervention? She asked, though she suspected the answer would be worse than void-touched involvement. Negative, Commander. The technology signatures are distinctly different from what Commander Zephyr 9 reported. These appear to be indigenous human developments, but advancing at impossible rates. That was when the communication request arrived. The signal came through quantum channels that the Kethmoran had believed were beyond human understanding. When Velkara accepted the transmission, the face that appeared on her display was unmistakably human, but speaking perfect Kethmoran with grammatical structures that indicated deep cultural understanding. Science Commander. Velkara of the research vessel Seeking Truth. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Human Solar Coalition. Welcome to our star system. The commander's mandibles clicked frantically as she processed the implications. The humans had detected their supposedly undetectable ships, identified her personally, and were communicating using technologies that shouldn't exist in their civilization. How did you, she began, detect your arrival? We've been tracking your approach for weeks. Our quantum sensor networks extend throughout the outer system. Dr. Chen's expression was friendly, but carried undertones of confidence that sent chills through Velkara's exoskeleton. We understand you're here to observe our development. We'd like to invite you to do so openly. The offer was so unexpected that Velkara nearly severed the communication link. Dr. Chen, I'm not certain what you believe our purpose. Commander, we know exactly why you're here. Commander Zephyr 9 has kept us informed of Kethmoran Empire interest in human development. Rather than conduct covert surveillance, we'd prefer to demonstrate our capabilities directly. The revelation that humans were in communication with a Kethmoran officer was staggering enough. The casual mention of having been kept informed suggested a level of ongoing cooperation that challenged everything Velkara knew about first contact. Protocols. You're suggesting formal contact between our species. Dr. Chen smiled with an expression that somehow conveyed both warmth and warning. Commander, we've been in formal contact for months. We've simply been waiting for the right moment to expand that relationship. Your arrival provides that opportunity. Within hours, the 3 Kethmoran research vessels found themselves being escorted by human spacecraft that demonstrated technologies the aliens had never encountered. The human ships moved without visible propulsion, generated energy fields that defied known physics, and maintained communication through quantum channels that operated independently of any galactic network. Science Commander Velkara stood on the observation deck of Olympus Station, staring through transparent aluminum windows at a view that challenged every assumption about primitive civilizations. Earth hung below them, its surface dotted with cities that glowed with clean energy. Orbital elevators stretched from the planet's surface to massive space stations. The Luna had been transformed into an industrial complex that produced technology she couldn't begin to understand. Impressive, isn't it? Dr. Chen asked, joining her at the observation window. How did you accomplish this so quickly? Velkara asked. Our records indicate your species achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. Necessity, Dr. Chen replied simply. When Commander Zephyr 9's fleet arrived, we faced a choice between evolution and extinction. We chose evolution. She gestured toward a holographic display showing the timeline of human development since first contact. Cooperation, Commander. Every nation on Earth shared their knowledge. Every scientist contributed their expertise. Every engineer worked toward the same goal. We accomplished in months what should have taken centuries because we finally had a reason to work together. Velkara studied the display with growing amazement. The human achievement wasn't just technological, it was social. They had somehow overcome the tribal divisions that plagued most developing species and achieved genuine planetary cooperation. And now? She asked. Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. Now we'd like to offer the Kethmoran Empire a partnership. We have technologies that could benefit your civilization, and you have knowledge of galactic politics that we need. But this partnership must be between equals. The offer was unprecedented. No primitive species had ever negotiated with the Empire from a position of strength. Yet the evidence surrounding them made it clear that humanity was no longer primitive in any meaningful sense. What specific partnership do you propose? Joint research initiatives, shared exploration of galactic space, and mutual defense agreements. Humanity is ready to take its place in galactic civilization, but we want to do so as allies rather than subjects. Velkara considered the proposal carefully. The humans had demonstrated technological capabilities that matched or exceeded Kethmoran achievements. More importantly, they had done so while maintaining their independence and cultural identity. I will need to report these developments to the High Council, she said finally. Dr. Chen nodded. We expected as much. Commander Zephyr 9 has prepared a comprehensive brief for the Council, documenting both human capabilities and our desire for peaceful cooperation. As the science commander prepared to return to her vessel, she paused at the observation window for one final look at human achievement. In the distance, she could see the construction framework for something that defied belief. A massive ring-shaped structure being assembled around Earth's sun. Dr. Chen, what I